Alright, it is getting late, so I am going to try to make this one quick. What did I think of After Earth? Really forgettable. I wasn't outright furious at this movie, but it's one of those, the more I kind of think about it, the more I find plot problems in this film. And it really distracts from the overall feeling, I guess, long-term feelings you're going to have for this movie. Especially, it's a movie, if you start to think about it, really needed to spend more time explaining stuff. And then the stuff it does explain doesn't do very well. The plot is not very coordinated. You don't see the purpose of it. The acting is bad, and I'll get into that in just a little bit because I don't know who to blame for that. As I said, I'll get into that in a little bit. So I wasn't as pissed off as I was at Battleship. It's just, I guess I didn't have very high expectations for this film. And I suppose that helped. Going into a film, not thinking it's going to be very good, and it being not that good is kind of going, oh, well, that's exactly what I thought it was going to be. You're not angry at it or anything else. It's not like it's based on anything, so there's nothing to get furious about. I get that's part of it. We've had so many bad movies over the years that people have gotten furious over, but since this is an original take, shall we say, for Hollywood, it's not remaking anything. It's not taking a known property and butchering it. So I guess you don't have any fury. And hey, you know what, Hollywood? Take that as a clue. Look, this is a movie that I didn't think was that good, but I'm not really angry with it. Because I don't have any pre-existing ideals about this universe I made. So there's a positive. This is an example of why we want more original sci-fi. And you know what? I at least gave it a shot. You got money out of me. I did at least support it in that regard. It's original sci-fi. I went to go see it. Now, let's get into the real crux of the matter. What people will probably not like is it's a kind of a vanity project. Only it's kind of weird in that it's a vanity project for somebody else. Well, in this case, really, your son. Yeah. It, of course, stars Will Smith's son and Will Smith. And I didn't realize this until I was actually after the movie watching the credits, and this did kind of change my feelings about their participation in the movie, but apparently it quotes story by Will Smith, which I don't know exactly how much that means, but how much he was really involved with the story, because he's not credited as a writer. So he might have just had like the most broadest of ideals of future Space Ranger crashing on future Earth with Son, because this is clearly, out of everything he's done, the biggest project that he's pushing to make his son a star. And this is certainly not going to be the way. And really, I would criticize this approach. I don't think this is the way to really go about doing this. If you want to, don't try to force Jaden Smith as the next big star coming forward, because he's not. And you know what? You'd be pushing him too far too fast. Is basically, no, do the smaller projects. Because it's tough to be able to pull that off. I'm looking at his filmography here, and he was cute in Pursuit of Happiness. Yeah, it's just a little. He was only 5 in The Day They Stood Still. Yeah, the Karate Kid movie, which again he was younger. Now he's getting to where he's got to actually pull off. He can't use the kid charms. So I would have, tried to put him in some smaller stuff. All right. I don't think he's quite up for the big leagues. At least I think. Because, like I said, the acting is bad in this. Jaden Smith is throughout the entire movie is this whiny, always just not very likable. But I'm not sure if I should blame Jaden Smith on this, because Will Smith is a freaking robot, and that's supposed to be his character. Like, it's not just him doing a bad job. He legitimately, like, the purpose of his character is he's the first within the movie universe, and this is where we're gonna start getting into really some stupid plot elements. M. Night Shyamalan cannot write aliens that are threatening once you think about them for a moment. Basically, alright, apparently Earth gets polluted, we've got to leave. That's something that's been covered several times. It's a trope. But when they settle on a new planet, apparently other aliens show up and decide to, I guess, troll humanity on a quite epic level. So they develop a bioweapon, a species that can just attack them, or attack humans. You know, this fights them like a big giant bug. But the bug can't see. It can only smell, and it smells only fear. That's a really fucking stupid weapon. I mean, come on. You have probably the ability to give it eyes. Give it freaking eyes, because you know what? There's a couple things. One, apparently in the future, you only use swords. I'm not joking. Every scene where we see, like, the future Rangers, they only have melee weapons. Like, it's a cool little futuristic melee weapon, I'll give you that, but still, when we're supposed to be seeing them fighting a war, they're fighting these big giant bugs with these sword cutlass, they call them, which is like a double-bladed, double-sided, or, you know, staff sword. Two things right there I think you're probably picking up. You're kind of going, why don't you just use guns? Because apparently we almost got pushed to the brink of defeat by this species, probably because we decided, you know what, we're going to fight it with swords. Yeah, we could make a gun, a laser gun, an electric gun, even fucking gas. But no. We're going to use swords against the big giant bugs that's like 5 times our mass. And, well, it's also the future. We have spaceships. We have these really advanced suits. Like, they change color, I guess, to adapt to motion when it can sense a threat. Like, the Ranger suits will turn black when it's dangerous, white when there's a medical emergency, and, like, brown when it's, like, just, you're okay. You figure, well, one right there that I just said that, you know, you figure it would actually adapt to the background you're in. Right? Adaptive camouflage. You know, right? I'm in a desert, it's tan. I'm in woods, it's green. I'm in greener woods, it becomes more green. But anyway, these bugs though hunt by smell. Not just any smell, the pheromone of fear. What happens if the humans just, I don't know, wore full freaking spacesuits? And by the way, it's not like, oh no, it's so potent you can just smell it through that stuff. No, in this movie, it is part of the plot that Jaden Smith's character survives an attack in his home that killed his sister, because his sister stuck him in basically this like botanical plant pot thing, just sealed him up, and boom, you're sealed, he can't smell you. Yeah. So right there in the movie, it's established that if you just basically seal yourself up, these things can't find you. So why aren't the Rangers just wearing full body suits? Like biosuits of some sort. It's the future. You got this suit that can change colors, but not one that is just completely sealed, or at the very least has, I don't know, some odor eliminating abilities. Puts out so many automatically sprays out other pheromones to really mess up this creature's senses. You're starting to see how, like, right there in the background, this monster, why the hell it. And by the way, it's not just a side thing. Like, this creature and the idea of fear, it's the central plot of the movie, because Will Smith's character is the first one who just found a way to completely suppress his fear by just basically being in the moment. And the idea, they go with this idea of fear is just illusion, all this stuff, which you're kind of wondering, one, we kind of evolved fear for a very good reason, but outside of just the idea of you can overcome fear, which, okay, in the broadest aspect, that's alright, you're kind of wondering what the point of the movie then is trying to tell the audience. It's hard to tell. I mean, it's just like that's a writing issue right there. It's just you're trying to wonder what the movie is trying to tell you, the deeper meaning that other films should talk you about, and it's that simultaneously too blatant and not giving enough detail. It's weird. It is weird. But alright, Will Smith's the first person I can just think of that, and he becomes then like basically the supreme commander of the armed forces. And because of that, they make him act as just a robot who just is trying to never express emotion throughout the entire movie. And though I complimented Iceman last week about that, about how you could see the reason that worked in that movie was because Michael Shannon, there was emotion in his character. It was extremely subtle, but you constantly felt like there was a massive amount of rage hidden behind every time he spoke. You kind of got the feeling that Michael Shannon's character this wanted to like scream, grab somebody's throat, and choke a bitch, which made his character terrifying, which he was supposed to be. Here, it's just bland. You really get the idea that he does not have. He's basically gone Vulcan. Like, he doesn't have any emotions, which kind of that ideal that the creature can sense fear. You could have at least done psychic energy. That would have been probably a little bit better. But the actual concept would have been interesting if you wanted to put. Let's just say this creature used psychic energy, and as long as you weren't afraid, you weren't fearful, it couldn't find you. You can suppress fear through a lot of different ways. You could have had the one guy that suppresses all emotion. Maybe you've had another guy that completely uses humor. He's constantly making jokes, and then you have another guy who uses rage, revenge. I don't care if this thing kills me because I just want to kill it. And you stick these guys in a little team, and you have all these conflicting major personalities, which of course their whole purpose is they're here because that one personality so overrides fear, they can do a mission. Right there, there's your better plot for this kind of MacGuffin. And it would have been a character-driven thing, unlike this thing, where they crash. It's not very. They use really weird-ass science, like they're just pulling out of their ass, which I don't think you can pull off nowadays as much. Like, you could do that stuff back in the 60s, because a lot of people still weren't as educated with, what's out in space. Sci-fi fans particularly know their science stuff, know their space shit, and this weird gravity storms and stuff. It does you crash into an asteroid, and then they jumped to Earth, which is quarantined for some reason. You don't really get an explanation there, and this is where the movie really starts to need to explain things, but it doesn't. And it doesn't really take a lot of time to explain the situation on Earth. If they had just had 30 seconds worth of dialogue, not even in one place, it's split up throughout the movie, it would have helped tremendously, because they crash on Earth, and I get the idea they fled Earth and then nature somewhat reclaimed, but there's apparently weird stuff going on. They don't even outright say, hey, by the way, the humans came here, it's not the same, we left for a reason, it's because the planet was becoming too unstable, and there's still going to be long-term after effects of that. No, they don't say that at all. I guarantee you there's a bunch of cutscenes from this where they talk about this stuff. Probably because it was the relationship they have with. It's all done almost like through Skype, futuristic Skype. So it's all done through radio, and I think that hurts the performances also of both Smiths, because they're never acting off of anyone. throughout most of this entire movie, they do not act off of anybody. There's just them in this scene. And Will Smith's character, you can see him pulling a lot more emotion off because as the movie progresses, his situation medically is apparently he not only broke his leg, he's like got an arteries cut, and later you kind of see him. He does self-surgery for a little bit to like temporarily try to cut the bleeding off by putting a tube in his leg to kind of like override the artery bleed. That fails, but he gets to see at least some emotion with him, and unfortunately, I think Jaden Smith in the script calls for this. So again, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna just trash Jaden Smith on it, and he didn't do a great performance. I'm only hesitant on that because you could just looking at. You could tell it might just be the script and the actor. He just was handed this really crappy role. You don't like him, but I don't think there's very many people that could pull off this character as likable, and you really want to root for him. Where he does seem kind of just whiny, and at the same time somewhat detached, and maybe also at the same time entitled. Has a really strong sense of entitlement. So yeah, maybe they did write this for Jaden Smith. But yeah, they're doing all this stuff on Earth, and here's the weird stuff that's going on Earth. All right, there's some species that First of all, I've walked through woods and out in the middle of nowhere. I've never come across half the craft that normally he's just running into, like slugs that can almost kill you instantly. I'm sure they're out there somewhere on Earth, but I mean, it looks like he's running around North America. But they've got a freaking giant bird in there who like decides to save him later on. That's a fine little subplot actually, but it doesn't explain where this giant bird, how it evolved. It's like an eagle-like thing, but it's way, way bigger than an eagle. And he's flying around actually when he first comes across this. He's doing that little skydive thing that you see in the trailer. And the bird decides to attack him. The only problem that I have with that is, why would the bird do that? Because it's not like he's tiny compared to the bird. Like, he's about the same size as the bird's body. Why would it not try to attack him for prey? Animals just don't attack something that's similar in size, at least flighted animals, while in flight. The only exception probably being, I think, Mexico's golden eagle, if I remember correctly, which is, it sometimes attacks goats, and it grabs it basically by pushing them off ledges. Grabs it, carries it for a little bit, and drops them. I don't think they attack flying creatures of same size. So I don't know why this thing bothered to attack him, but it doesn't explain where this thing came from, because this thing's like I don't know if you've ever seen a bald eagle, but I believe it is either the golden eagle or the American bald eagle that is the largest bird in the world. This thing's way, way bigger than that. Or is this a larger raptor? Maybe the condor is big too. This thing's still way bigger than a condor. So where the hell did it come from? I mean, that's only 1,000 years of evolution. And giant new species like that do not come up in just 1,000 years. So that came out of nowhere. And then the planet like goes through extreme climate change every day, to where like it goes from freezing at like somewhat tropical, nice out, to at night it goes to absolute freezing. How that works outside of the day after tomorrow style meteorology, which means bullshit. Taking a theory way to its extreme. How does that work? Why does it do that? Why are the plants? The environment should look completely different, and it should look more like a tundra. Instead of like the plants kind of wilt up and then grow back, or like unwilt the next morning. And even if that is the case, how cold is it getting? Because, again, he's wearing a future, supposedly environmental suit. Shouldn't that keep him warm? People can walk around in Antarctica. People have basically walked from the coast of Antarctica to the South Pole. If the clothing's warm enough, it works. So I've got no idea. It's just another giant plot hole when you start going through this movie. You're going, okay, it's cold, yes. Why isn't his suit helping? Why is it getting this cold again? Explain this stuff to us, movie. Give us the go. Hey, this is one of the reasons this planet was quarantined. They kind of mention, oh, it's gonna be cold. You gotta go into these geothermal spots, and he go again. Give us another quick of those. Give us another quick moment of him just going. This is one of the reasons we had to leave Earth. This rapid climate change was occurring on a daily basis. That millions were dying every day. And our scientists estimated even after we left, something like this would still happen for the next 10,000 years. Right there, it's just a couple seconds, but boom, that whole plot hole solved. Even if the science isn't perfect, it's going, okay, they know about, this is why they know about this happening. It's an after effect, and they know we have a 10,000 year clock before it would stop doing this stuff. I'm fine for it. But then they also have this. I mentioned like their little tech before. Apparently, stuff in the future is made by like the lowest bidder. Everything in the future is extremely fragile. Nothing is made up to like military style hardness or ruggedness. Nope. I mean, even the ships seem like they're made of like just fabric, which is just weird looking. It doesn't feel like when they're on that spaceship, it doesn't feel like they're on a spaceship. Because everything's like got this fabric weavy look. Even their like houses have like this sails or their walls. It's weird. It's hard to explain, and it feels very fragile and breakable. So maybe that's the other reason. Maybe if you made your buildings out of concrete and shit, the bugs couldn't get in to attack your family. Just saying. Like, he gets a risk thing, it breaks. He's got a backpack, and stuff gets smashed in there. Somehow there's like this breathing liquid, which, by the way, I kind of guessed what that was about, but I think a lot of people are going to be confused. Like, he's a human. Why does he need to have this breathing thing? And it's 1,000 years after. Don't give me anything about pollutants in the air. You can maybe give me that a couple decades after people have abandoned Earth, not 1,000 years. I get it as in that he's grown up his entire life on an alien world for that reason, or you could have even done, after we left Earth, we genetically, we did some genetic modifications to all humans so that their lungs would be better suited to our colony worlds. Therefore, you're going to need this special breather once a day to coat your lungs. That would have worked. Or you could have our world that we now live on is completely desert, doesn't have pollen. Your body does not have, it just can't. It's not used to this type of environment. It's again one of those that you could have thrown in a single line, and it solves the entire question that's being brought up in your mind. So my recommendation, I wasn't pissed off on it. So I guess if you're just gonna go to the movies to waste a couple hours, I go say see Iceman. I've actually heard a few people say good things about the Fast and Furious movie. Probably even Hangover 3. You'll probably laugh a couple times at least if you see Hangover 3. If you've seen that stuff already, then I guess if you just want to kill some time, you can go see this movie, but I don't recommend it. To compare it to Oblivion, since this is a lot of people this is a very similar concept film. Really, actually, these titles should have been switched. Oblivion would have been a better title for this movie, because you could have interpreted that as them obliviating their emotions or their fear or something like that. And Oblivion, of course, is about really after the real Earth is over, and it's it's no longer the real planet anymore. There's no comparison. Go see Oblivion. It's way better directed, great visuals, a solid story. It's got a couple plot holes, yeah, but like you can at least come up with theories as to what solves those plot holes and it doesn't sound too stupid. I think the big one in that is like he had an army of clones. Yeah, they had an army of clones that attacked Earth in that one. That's how the aliens won. Like, and then they made up this whole big scenario to try to trick him. You could always just go, the Tom Cruise clones, the ones they used as foot soldiers were, she could control them, but they didn't have the smarts to be problem solvers, and she needs these guys to be repairmen now. See, that works. I don't know. See Oblivion. There's no comparing the two. Again, I want to say more about whether I was prepared to kind of rip into the Smiths here, but I mean, I think I can blame him for at least Will Smith for the writing of the story, it being kind of really too much about him and his son in real life to make it. That makes it hard for everyone else to relate. It's maybe too personal of a story. But this also could easily be just a director failing. Will Smith putting in enough maybe pressure with the writing that it comes off as a poorly written story. It's hard to tell where the failure in this actually came from, behind the scenes stuff. It could have been that this, the movie would have been fine, but M. Night Shyamalan just fucked up with the directing and did not get good performances as a result. On the plus side, no twist. I think he's even aware that the twist thing has become... people are making fun of that, and they're too expecting it, so I think he's just dropped having twists. I think he was really pressured after their first two movies to have twists, and I think he's now... he does not have that pressure anymore to do twists. If anything, there's pressure for him not to do twists. So... I think he's at least gotten away from that. Yay. Anyway, yeah, that's that. We got a lot of stuff coming up. It's gonna be June next week. Stay tuned to our first June movies. We got movies such as The Purge, Man of Steel. What the End of the World movie? That actually looks like it might be funny. I'll give that a look. Also, stay tuned. I guess I'm gonna have to do a Xbox, PlayStation 4 video soon. Maybe tomorrow I'll put that up. But yeah, in the meantime, avoid this. Get excited for Pacific Rim instead. Much better choice. Alright, signing off, guys.